As well as knowing the networking tools created by Red Hat, it is beneficial to know some of the more commonplace Linux command line tools for viewing and adjusting network settings. Note that if Network Manager is running, it would be best to stop that service, otherwise they will interfere with the commands we will use here. We used ifconfig in a previous video, but now we are going to look at it a bit more. ifconfig is the old IP configuration tool that has been used in Linux systems for years. ifconfig by itself will display the current interfaces that are up and running. ifconfig-a will display all of the interfaces on a system, whether they are up or down. We can also assign an IP to an interface with the ifconfig command like so. We assign a new IP address to the ETH1 interface with the subnet mask listed above. Now let's use the ifconfig command to take a look at ETH1. And we can verify that our IP address that we assigned is now there. Keep in mind that any IP address configurations made with this command will not survive a reboot. If you need for any changes that you have made to be permanent, you will need to modify the network scripts that we will discuss in a following video to store your IP settings. The ifdown command does just what it says. It shuts an interface down. By default, our ETH1 interface is brought up when the system boots, but for now, let's just shut it down. This is done with the ifdown command and an ETH1. And if we do an ifconfig, we no longer see ETH1 in the output. We could make this a permanent change by running ifdown ETH1 boot. That would keep the interface from coming back up on system reboot. To bring an interface back up, we can use the ifup command. Let's bring our ETH1 interface back up. Just like with the ifdown command, we could use ifup, then the device name, and then boot to have the device come back up automatically at reboot. We can use the route command to view our current routing table. We can also add static routes with the route command. Since our configuration here shows that we do not have a default gateway, let's use the route command to add one. And we will make sure it uses our ETH0 device. Now let's take a look at our routing table again. And there we go. We now see that we have a default gateway pointing to the IP address that we just set up, and it is using ETH0. Now we're going to take a look at the IP command. IP is a newer command line tool to work with network interfaces. It is meant to be a replacement for the old ifconfig command along with the route command. We can do any of the previous commands we just saw with the IP command just by changing some options. To view our currently configured IP addresses for our interfaces, we run the following command: IP address show. And here we can see our local loopback, the IP address associated with that, our ETH0 interface, along with the IP address associated with that, and our ETH1 interface, and the address associated with that. Instead of running the route command, we can use IP route to view our current routing table. And just like we saw before, here is our default gateway via the 192.168.75.2 address through the ETH0 device. We can also view current interface statistics such as drop packets or connection errors with the following: IP-S and then link. This is useful in helping to determine if we have a faulty cable or network card by looking at the amount of errors or drop packets. Read the man page on the IP command to learn more about it. You won't need to know all of the options for the RHCSA exam, but you should know the ones discussed in this video. The final command that we will look at is the dhclient command. The dhclient command is used to get an automatic IP assignment from a DHCP server on your network. Let's use dhclient to get a DHCP IP address on our ETH1 interface. We just run dhclient and then the name of the interface. And let's see what IP address we ended up with. We quickly went through a lot of networking commands in this video. I would suggest reading the man pages on each one and practicing them on your system, especially the IP command, since it is the preferred command on Linux systems nowadays.